Hello, welcome to Astrology for Mystics. I'm your host, astrologer Jennifer Jennings. Thank you so much for joining me today as we are going to go over the full moon in Libra taking place April 12th and 13th. This full moon is all about relationships, justice, the law, and beautiful pink wildflowers. This is a sign of spring. This is a completion from the new moon in Aries. And what did we learn? What can we improve moving forward? This full moon in Libra forecast is going to entail rising signs, and we are going to discuss this Libra cardinal energy. So let's get started. All right, for my courageous and fiery Aries, this full moon in Libra will be transiting in your seventh house of relationships and partnerships. And so anything that has to do with the law, you want to make sure that you are on the up and up. Things that you have maybe put off in the past. Maybe you are receiving your tax return, or maybe you need to take care of your tax return. Either way, Aries, impulsive decisions regarding money and spending money is where you could receive a shakeup because Uranus and Hygeia are there in your second house of values. The sun is opposing this moon. Chiron is opposing the moon. Eris, the goddess of war and strife, is opposing this moon, and so is Neptune. You have a lot that is opposing your ascendant with relationships, the law, and contracts. Venus is ruling this full moon, and so that second house is important. And where Venus is sitting is also important. And we see the things of the past with Ceres and Venus, Saturn, North Node, Mercury. They're all in the past. Limits and obstacles, acceptance, charity, all of that is in the past. And if you want that to remain in the past, then being accountable, being a person that manages their money is very important. Communications with your siblings, with anything having to do, things that you learn could burden you. Communications could be a burden, especially with a higher learning, taking that extra course that you need, taking that class. Maybe you just think that other things are important to spend money on. Mars is transiting in your fourth house of home. There's a lot of independence that you are seeking, Aries. There's a lot of attention that is focusing on children and playfulness, being creative. Maybe you're planning on taking a trip. That ninth house with Juno and Astrea and Sagittarius, we are going back into the past. With relationships, we are taking a trip. Just be careful that if you go anywhere, watch your surroundings, be law abiding. I see Pluto in that 11th house wanting to transform the way that you make money in the future, bringing you a wake up call about where you are spending your time with work. Maybe you want to go back to another job. Maybe you are understanding that the way you are bringing in money would be better off somewhere else in another setting. There is a reigniting of a flame in that 8th house with the dark moon. Vesta, Apollo is there. There's wisdom there with Poseidon. And it could be about hidden sex, other people's money, hidden taxes. Again, it could be about tax returns and the way that you are spending your money. The spiritual essence in that 12th house with your dreams, with service, giving of service and taking care of other people. There are unconscious fears there that you want to move past. And as this full moon progresses, it will be in the past. And you can leave it there, Aries. Enjoy yourself. Good luck, Aries. Hello, my dependable Taurus risers. This full moon in Libra is going to be taking place in your 6th house, your everyday, your 6th house of health. And this is going to be reflecting contracts, debt, the law, the governing bodies. You're going to be reflecting on past relationships with this full moon. The sun, Neptune, Chiron, Aries, they're all in that 12th house, shining a light on your self-worth with past relationships and the hidden fears, the unconscious fears about who you are and what you're all about. The sun is going to be shining on all things having to do with the past and the past action that you have taken. Money seems to be here and there, and it can affect your health. The ears, nose, and throat. There's that shakeup with Hygeia conjunct Uranus in the 1st house. It's also shaking things up with your friend group and how you bring in money. The 2nd house is where Jupiter is expanding communications about your values and what you truly value. The 3rd house is where Mars is, and that is where you are seeking independence with communications with family, with home, with lineage, genealogy. And it's also an independence where you are taking action toward this communication. And of course, siblings, childhood friends. The South Node with Virgo, it's where you've already been. You've already been here. The way that you create. But the North Node with groups, with the way that you bring in money, giving of service, that's where your values are. Venus is there. Venus is ruling this full moon in Libra. And she is at a station. This is a lot of value is going into the way that you bring in money in your friend group. Just be sure that you don't overdrink, overparty. Be accountable and responsible, because that is what Saturn is doing with your friend group. Could be bringing some limits and obstacles with some of your friends, the way that you make money. But it also requires responsibility and accountability when it comes to the communications. Spirituality is where it's at for you. There is definitely a wake-up call with your future groups at work. There's some transformation that is going to be taking place with your work because Pluto is there transforming that 10th house. And it also has to do with your image, your public image at work. There may have been some past restrictions on travel because Cupid in Capricorn is there in that 9th house, requiring, again, responsibility. This full moon for you, Taurus risers, is going to be in a good standing with Jupiter. You have a generous nature. And that generous nature is also going to teach you about boundaries. The fate, though, that this full moon has in Libra is with not just Hygeia in that first house with money, it's also about your fitness, the world health. It's fated with Ceres in that 11th house. Perhaps you may feel misunderstood, but as you integrate your own emotions and you nurture and accept the feminine side of you, you can definitely have a better understanding of the women around you. And this sense of loss or this sense of being misunderstood can come easier. Maybe you feel like that there is a weight with these communications, and maybe you are feeling misunderstood because of Mars there in that third house. But Taurus risers, this too shall pass. The disordered aggression that could be taking place with your relationships and partnerships, with the disordered aggression of the dark moon in Scorpio, can definitely bring up some trust issues. But there is enlightenment there. I can see Apollo in Scorpio in that 7th house at a 6 degree and 30 minute. I can see there's wisdom with Poseidon at a 1628. And there's this flame of life. Vesta is conjunct at the same degree with Poseidon in the relationships, with money, other people's money, things that are hidden. There's trust issues that you have to push forward with this higher learning that Astrea is bringing you in that 8th house of long travels with relationships. Just remember, this too shall pass. Be what you want to see. Enjoy the earth and its beautiful resources. Good luck, Taurus. Hello, my Mercurial Gemini risers. This full moon is going to be taking place in your 5th house of kids and creativity, how you create. This is about relationships, the law, and possibly creating something anew with a garden. Jupiter is expanding your life path with communications. Jupiter in Gemini in that first house could be giving you a hard time staying focused. Communications are not just expanding with Jupiter, but they are also expanding with relationships, with justice. This relationship with justice with Astrea in the 7th house of relationships at a 23 degree and 20 minute, there is a challenge. And this challenge will definitely be bringing you a conscious raising experience. There is a disordered aggression in your everyday or wherever that 1 degree is with the dark moon in Scorpio. Your health, investigating your health, investigating anything could bring you a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of intensity. Hygeia and Uranus being there in the 12th house is shaking things up. More than likely giving you a lot of intuitive shakeups with visions. There could be a gnosis, and this gnosis could even give you a fear with the unconscious, with the unknown. There is definitely an emphasis on world health, the fears of the world and it crumbling around us. But have no fear, Gemini risers. This full moon is going to be shining a light on your friend group, how you bring in money, the action that you have taken. There could be some pain that you are sharing with friend groups because Chiron is there in your 11th house. There could be some issues surrounding money and the way that you are valuing your public image, how you are bringing in money with Saturn and Venus, Ceres, Mercury, the North Node, all being in that 10th or even possibly your 11th house. There is definitely a wake-up call with long travels, with communications, with the transformation that has taken place with you with groups and how you teach world health or understand world health. Because Pluto and Pallas is giving you an intellectual acumen of a gnosis there with long travels, with immigration, other countries, visas, things of that nature. The South Node is where you've been. With Virgo in the 4th house, you've been here before. Lots of transformation has taken place with you at home. But where you are going with that North Node, with your communications, is critical. Because Mercury is about to be critical in Pisces, all the while Venus is stationing direct. What is it that you truly value, Gemini risers? The value with Mars in the 2nd house of Cancer, it's about family. It's about home. It's about loyalty. And loyalty is definitely where it's at for you right now. Good luck, Gemini risers. Hello, my sensitive and intuitive Cancer risers. How's it going, guys? This full moon is going to be taking place in your 4th house of home. This is a reflection of home and mom, genealogy, contracts, the law. The sun is going to be opposing you, Cancer risers, in your 10th house. This is about your public image. This is where you feel pain. This is where you feel a struggle. But Jupiter is in a good standing with this moon. And Jupiter is going deep to bring a deeper understanding of yourself, your psyche, and going deep to bring you optimism when you don't feel it, when you don't feel optimistic. It has not been easy for Cancerian risers to have Hades there in Cancer or Mars there in Cancer. There is a huge weight. There is a weight and there's a lot of warring with your emotions and with home and mom and family. The way that you bring money, the health factor, the shakeups with groups and all the chaos. Cancer risers, the communications, that's where you've been, but where you are going is a long travel, a higher learning about other cultures, learning about other states and towns. There is some limits and obstacles there. But those limits, those obstacles can push you forward and show you the true value of a higher learning. The communications with Mercury, the North Node, Saturn, Venus at a station there, and Ceres all there in the 9th house is teaching you a lot about indoctrination, immigration, other cultures. other places that you can go, even in the dream state. There is definitely a wake-up call about things that are hidden with the past, with groups. There's a lot of transformation that has taken place with death, rebirth, regeneration, and other people's money. And that is where the investigation is for you, Cancer risers, is to investigate the deeper aspect of your spiritual gnosis. This is a period where you can have psychic abilities when you didn't have them before in the past. Your mind is brilliant. You're insightful. It can also show you where you need to fight for your ideals, humanitarian causes, political causes. And there is definitely a divine justice with your everyday and things that you learn about long travels, with relationships. This is a time period that is going to push you forward, and you're going to dig deep. Cancer risers, you're going to dig deep for this optimism. But it's there. It's definitely there. There's a lot of disordered aggression that you have with children, the way that you are creating with or without children. But there is also enlightenment and wisdom there. Good luck, Cancer risers. Hello, my courageous Leos. This full moon is going to be taking place in your third house of communications and siblings. It's about how you think as well. The third house is ruled by Gemini, the twins, Castor and Pollux. And this third house is about your thinking, your communications, your childhood friends, where you went to grade school. The ninth house is what is in opposition with this full moon. The sun, Chiron, Neptune, Aries, all of this in the ninth house is about immigration, other people's cultures, foreign land, a higher learning with church, religion, philosophy. There's a long travel here. There's a lot of fiery energy here with long travels. And that's where you are feeling pained. That's where Chiron is. That's where the sun is shining, this inner warring that you're having. During this period of time with the full moon in Libra, Leo risers, Mars comes into a square with that Libra moon. And so your personal power, that unconscious, the past, things going on, things that you have learned, whether that be about the homeland, genealogy, there is a huge weight here. And there's a lot of feeling of powerlessness with Mars in the 12th house as it squares the moon. Be mindful of that. And then in the 11th house of friend groups and how you bring in money, there's a lot of expansion here. There's a lot of new associations. Some you're letting go of, some maybe you're breaking up with. But then there are always new, the old has to shed for the new. And that could be going on with you, Leo risers. The 10th house is where money is being shaken up at work. There could be some health factors going on at work. The 8th house of death, rebirth, regeneration, where Mercury, North Node, Saturn, Venus, and Ceres all in conversation. There's a lot of messy chatter here, especially it could have to do with the reproductive system. It could have to do with values of your reproductive system. Mercury is it's in its detriment in Pisces. And so the thinking about death, the thinking about taxes, the thinking about the different things that are taboo or the occult, that is where there could be a lot of mental processing there that is slowing you down, creating any type of depression or anxiety. The 7th house of relationships, like I said, Pluto is transforming that ascendant. No matter how you look at it, at a 3-degree, unless you're way up in degree in your Leo ascendant, Pluto is having a hard opposition. It's like you want what other people have right now with this. You want something that you don't, maybe you just don't feel like you can grasp it. But Leo, this opposition is going to be here and you just need to get comfy. Just sit with it. Get comfy with it. I really wouldn't be in a group setting. It could be that, because Leo does rule creativity, it rules education. So it could have a lot to do with that and your values with education, other people's money with education, or something like that. But Mars is going to be, opposing this Pluto that is going to be opposing your ascendant. And so it really is about social changes, human rights, letting go of certain controls that you feel like you need to have. There's just a lot of intensity that I can feel with this chart. So good luck to you guys, Leos. Let me know how it's going for you right now, please. I would be very, very interested to know. Hello, my practical Virgo risers. This full moon in Libra is going to be taking place in your second house. The second house is about your values. It's what you truly value in life. It could be about your possessions, things that you own. That's where you're going to be reflecting, where you are reflecting possibly with contracts, with the law enforcement, with the government, things that they are enforcing. Human rights is a big theme right now. And for you, Virgo risers in the 11th house, that's where Mars is sitting. That's where Mars is sitting, that is squaring and challenging your values, your money. And it could be with the health system, it could be with the markets. Mars there in Cancer is not in its great standing. Mars is actually wanting to be very independent and possibly even argumentative with your friends, with your friend groups, with how you bring in money, with your home, especially if you are bringing in money through a home health care. The 10th house, that is where Jupiter is expanding communications. There's also a burden with Admetos and some letting go with some communications, maybe some things that you've been wanting to talk about, some things that you have been wanting to figure out. You are now able to do that. The 9th house is where travel is being shaken up. It is affecting the health. It could be with storms. It could be with any type of geological activity because, it is earthy. It's the earth sign. Taurus is an earth sign. Hygeia is there and things are being shaken up with your 9th house, with this higher learning. The 8th house with death, rebirth, regeneration, other people's money, hidden taxes, the occult, all of that that's hidden in Scorpio. With medical, it would be the reproductive system. This is where everything that is murky, the sun is shining on it and it doesn't feel good. Your self-worth with money could be a factor for you Virgos. The 7th house of relationships is where all this Piscean energy is that could be opposing your ascendant. A lot of lessons are being learned. A lot of messy chatter is in the air, but it will not be long. Mercury, Venus, Saturn, they're going to go into Aries. And once we can relieve ourselves from all of this cloudiness, we will be able to see things a whole lot better. But relationships with you is where Mercury is truly not in its best in Pisces. And so you want to be mindful that the way you think and the way you communicate with relationships is not affecting your health. Don't go, if you go to a party, don't overindulge, because this axis right here is all about the health and addiction and giving of service. Giving of service would be a much better way to have this work itself out when you are giving of yourself. There is a divine justice in the 4th house of home with Astrea. There's relationships that are bringing you a conscious raising experience with Juno. There's a lot of things going on at home. Again, it could be a lot of the chatter, a lot of the media. Mercury rules that media, and that's where Jupiter is expanding communications. And it's all opposing that home and learning at home, maybe with other relationships. Maybe you're having arguments with other people at home about different subjects that are passionate. There's definitely a wake-up call with groups, with the online chatter, possibly protests, definitely given a wake-up call during this period of time. And it is about health. It could be about healthcare. The third house of communications, where Mercury rules, that is where you have a lot of disordered aggression. That does bring you enlightenment and wisdom. And that reigniting of a flame with Vesta is reigniting conversations. Reigniting conversations about things that are worthy of investigation. Intense conversations. It could be about the political arena. It could be about the markets. I don't know. Please let me know how it's going for you, Virgo risers. Good luck. Hello, my diplomatic Libra risers. This full moon is going to be in your first house. It's all about your life path. This is such a monumental type of full moon because there is so much at stake here, Libra risers. There's so much at stake. And it is with the balance, the justice with relationships, and how we can bring solutions to the table to make really good deals happen. The problem is, Libra risers, is that the sun is opposing the ascendant. The sun in Aries with Chiron and Eris and Neptune. Neptune, there is something that we would have to dissolve with Neptune in that seventh house to really see clearly. But there is a lot of warring going on with relationships, with quick action, with a lot of fiery energy. Saturn and Venus at this time, when the moon is full, is going to be fated with Saturn and Venus, the North Node. And this is, again, it's just there's a lot of Piscean energy that is about to be very critical, while Mars is becoming critical as well. We have personal planets that are becoming critical in degree, reaching a higher degree in that late third decan into that 29 critical degree. So conversations are very messy right now, and we can't always believe what we hear. The deals that are going down could be very backhanded. And the balance, we are trying to balance the scales here, and it's very hard with all this Piscean energy, as well as the sun shining a light on all of the egoic energy. There's a lot of disordered aggression with other people's money, with taxes, with the government, and our values, what you truly value. The third house of communications, that's where the justice is coming in, where Astrea is with relationships. And there is definitely a higher learning. There is the quartz. We can see the quartz here with Sagittarius and Astrea. And it's also a justice with a lot of fire. A quick movement of energy, talks of, war talks. That's really what we are looking at with this period of time. And the wake-up call with education, with protests, with groups. It's very transformative right now, Libra risers. Jupiter in the ninth house of long travels and higher learning. That's where a lot of communications are expanding. There is a lot of expansion in the air as well, with the air that we breathe. And I just get this sense of fire, helicopters, planes, ships, explosions, volcanoes. There's just a lot of fiery energy, even though we have the Piscean energy that is becoming critical. Mars in Cancer, Mercury in Pisces. Mars and Mercury are coming into a critical degree at the same degree with Israel and Russia. And these deals that are going on behind the scenes are at a tipping point. And so as we see that on the collective level, imagine that on a personal level. It's a lot of intensity here with values and other people's money. Venus is going to be stationing direct. She's very intense with her values and her service. In the 6th house of health, of romance, of your everyday. There's a lot of energy there. But use caution as well. In one sense, we could see this as the collective healthcare system. There's a lot of limits and obstacles right now, and it's going to get really critical with the pharmaceutical companies. And it could be really critical for you at Big Pharma if you have to fill a prescription. Could be storm damage. They don't have lights on, something of that nature. But the weight of home is really where the focus is. Libra risers right now is mainly just to make sure to cater to yourself. Look after you. Be true to you. And let other people look after themselves as well. That is really the best way that I could describe the way that I feel looking at this chart, is just to be sure to give yourself time to react. Don't be quick-tempered. Try not to be impatient. And if you are having these periods of loneliness, get out into groups. Go to a new place. Join the gym. Something to bring that balance back. Good luck, Libras. Hello, my passionate Scorpio risers. This full moon is going to be taking place in your 12th house. The 12th house is all about things of the past, with relationships, with the law enforcement, with the government. There is a lot of reflecting here in that unconscious that wants to make itself conscious. In that 6th house, the 6th house is about your everyday, your romance, your job, your health. And the sun is shining a light there. And there is a lot of feeling of unworthiness here about your health. And you're reflecting on relationships. There's this disordered aggression with the dark moon in the 1st house that is bringing a gnosis when it comes to other people's money, debt, loans, the markets. There is a disordered aggression with that dark moon on your life path, or perhaps in that 12th house, depending on what you rise with, what degree you rise with. But the dark moon, it could be in that 12th house. And there is disordered aggression about things of the past with other people's money, with taxes. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of crazy, chaotic chatter right now with the media, all media, because Mercury, Saturn, Venus, Ceres, the North Node, they're all in Pisces in conversation in a close degree of one another. And Mercury is debilitated in Pisces. The thinking, the communications with children, how we are creating an environment for our children. There is a divine justice in the 2nd house of values with a relationship. It could be that something is coming up with philosophical talks, with your values, with religion and your values. Maybe it has something to do with the Pope. Relationships at this time are going to be shaken up because Uranus is there in the 7th house. Hygeia is there in the 7th house of Taurus. And it could be having to do with the health factor. The purity of health, Hygeia, is about the health. Uranus is there at a 2520, and that is about shakeups. And it could be shakeups with money, shakeups with the earth. Jupiter is expanding communications there in the eighth house. And the ninth house is things that you're learning. So you are learning about a quick movement of travel, a higher learning. Again, this philosophical house, this Sagittarius ruled home is where there's a lot of Cancerian energy that you have going on. You could be having some car issues as well. Things going on with your car, things going on at home that are just warring. There is a lot of attention that is going to children, that is going to your work, the government, education. Saturn and Venus, Mercury, North Node, Sirius, all of that is in your fifth house of kids and creativity, how you create. There is a shakeup at home with communications, with groups, with video, with we the people, with protesting. It's transformative, that is for sure. Especially if you're living in California, because I totally see a lot of fate going down with California in the markets in this reading. I mean, even with that said, I do see the markets rebounding, but Scorpio risers, if you have any investments, just sit tight. Just sit tight. Good luck, Scorpio risers. Hello, Sagittarius risers. This full moon is going to be taking place in your 11th house, your 11th house of groups. Your 11th house of groups is how you bring in money. It's where the justice is. This is where the balance is that you are reflecting. All the while, the sun is shining on your house of creativity, how you create, all the action that is being taken with your creativity and your children. There's a lot of warring going on here. There is a lot of pain that is happening. And again, I'm seeing this reading with a lot of money talks, trade bonds, trading, the Pope, a higher philosophical learning about philosophical truths. The 12th house is where the unknown is for you about money, about taxes, about other people's money. But there is also enlightenment and wisdom that is continuously reigniting a flame here, wanting to make that unconscious conscious with your health, with your everyday, your friend group. That is really where it's at for you and how you bring in money. If you are working for the government, it could be a very trying time. The media and the chatter is just a lot. And so it could be putting fears into you that may not need to be so fearing, because everything that is purging itself during this full moon is going to bring a light to something new. And that is what the sun is also trying to do, is shine a light on this new creativity, your new friend group, new resources that are coming available to you. The way that you communicate, your communications, there is transformative action being taken because Pluto is there and Pluto is transforming you at a generational level. And it's really about groups and how you communicate with these groups, the protesting, how you feel about that, all the things that could be going down in California. What does that make you feel like? What are the talks like? And it looks like the chatter with Mercury in the North Node, Saturn, Venus, Ceres there in the fourth house of home. That is where things are a little cloudy. And you are having to dig deep and learn a little bit more, because Mars there in your eighth house of death, rebirth, regeneration, other people's money, things that are hidden at home. And home for us as a collective could be the United States. It could be the UK. Wherever home is for you, that is where there is some warring going on with things that are hidden. And so you could be taking a deep dive into philosophical truths, into religion, into genealogy and the family tree. where we've been before. Old wars, cold wars. Jupiter is expanding communications with you in the seventh house of relationships. This expansion is also where there could be a burden with communications, maybe a breakup, things that are people that you are letting go of. That's also possible here. And we do that. That's life. What can you learn from it? How can you react better? That's all we can do, right? Good luck, Sagittarius risers. Hello, my Capricorn risers. This full moon is going to be taking place in your 10th house. The 10th house is about your public image. It's about your father. It's about your work. How you are spending your time creating the way in which you are relating to other people, to the outer world. This is where the reflection is while the sun is shining a light on your fourth house of home and the warring that is going on at home. And for you, Capricorn risers, it's not just about your home life. It's about your home, your collective home with humanity, with the world, with the earth. Things are being shaken up with creativity and children, money, health. Jupiter is expanding communications about health. And you are learning things about possibly your mom, your homeland. There's a lot of independence going here with relationships and partnerships. Mars is there. There's an independence here. There is a lot of aggression in that seventh house of relationships and partnerships. There's a weight here. There is a lot of attention on children, on education, and the state government level. In your 11th house, the way you bring in money, your friend group, there's a lot of uncertainty here. There's a lot of intensity. But you also have wisdom, enlightenment that is ready available for you. But some of your friends, some of your friend groups, maybe the way that you bring in money, there is some sort of disordered aggression there. And it could have to do with a relationship from the past. There could be some justice with the past. Things going on with relationships that are wanting to make themselves conscious. And as they do that, they are going to bring you a enlightenment, a conscious raising experience, because that's what Juno does. Is she brings relationships to you that expand your consciousness. And in Sagittarius, there is definitely a higher learning here. Your values are being transformed, especially how you pay attention to the media, the news, online networking. Could give you a wake-up call, make you want to investigate things that are going on with other states, especially California, because California is fated with this reading in a big way. Very transformative with being independent. And so that, I guess, is your forecast, Capricorn risers, is just this is a independent time. And with your relationships and partnerships, just make sure that Mars there in that seventh house, that your vehicle, because Mars can stand for a vehicle in astrology, your body, your vehicle. Just make sure that there are things that are up to par with your vehicle, the oil changed, your tire pressure, just things like that. Be sure and be responsible, because as a Capricorn riser, you're called to be responsible, accountable. Good luck, Capricorn risers. Hello, my Aquarius risers, you independent, innovative thinkers. This full moon is going to be taking place in your ninth house, the ninth house of travel, the ninth house of higher learning, especially with the justice system. And it would appear that this community, we the people, Aquarius rising reading, is going to oppose the money markets from California. All the news, all the chatter, all the messy chatter in the news media, all the chaos is where you are rising, Aquarius. And this is bringing a wake-up call to the future of your life path, the future with groups, how you are bringing in money is definitely teaching you with relationships and higher learning, especially with a quick movement of energy. There's a lot of fire energy with groups. And it could be that when we are in a group setting during this full moon in Libra, it could be to our detriment. Just be cautious because the second house of your values, this is where Venus is intense. She is stationing to go direct. And all the while, the lunar node, Saturn, all of that is here in the second house with Mercury. And it's cloudy. Mercury is in her detriment or in his detriment here with values. The third house of communications, siblings, childhood friends, your hometown. That is where all of the warring is happening because Eris and the sun, Chiron there, Neptune, it's all opposing that full moon. It's all opposing the higher learning and the justice. And there's a lot of transformation that we are seeing with trans Pluto in the 8th house. Like I said, the 7th house is where there is a opposition with money markets. The 10th house is where there's a reigniting of a flame and a disordered aggression when it comes to things with the government that is hidden. The things that we need to investigate at work or with your father, siblings. There is a shakeup with health at home, with groups, and Jupiter is expanding in communications. But this expansion is also burdening, and there is a letting go here. And it is just calling on me to say, hey, we're going to learn something. We're definitely going to learn a lot during this full moon in Libra. Mars is going to be in the 6th house in Cancer. A lot of warring here with the everyday at home, with groups, with we the people, with rights, human rights. And that is really what is so huge during this period of time in April. We saw it coming. We've been seeing this come, but I don't think it's going to get too bad for you personally and collectively, but with your groups. You know, Aquarius risers, you're going to like to be in groups, but you're also going to like your solitude. And I think that this is a time to reflect on that solitude and, you know, just really sit with things and not react. Good luck, Aquarius risers. Hello, my Pisces risers. This full moon in Libra is going to be transiting in your 8th house. And it is about taxes. It's about other people's money. It's about things that's going on with the government. It's about the justice, the balance. And this balance that we are trying to uphold here is where we have to dig deep. We have to dig deep with our faith. Because isn't that what Pisces wants to do? Is have faith, but at the same time, there is limits and obstacles. There's limits and obstacles, Pisces, on your life path with Saturn. Saturn isn't just about the government. It's not just about your father. It is about limits with your spirituality. And it could be that there are limits with addiction, with alcoholism, with giving of service, and boundaries. This full moon is going to be opposing your values, what you truly value in life. That's where the warring is with your possessions, things that you own, your money, and communications with your siblings, with your childhood friends, with your cousins. There's a shakeup with health. Jupiter is expanding communications in your 4th house, while Mars is wanting your children, the way that you create to be independent of you. The 5th house of kids is also where you are going to be creating anew at home with things that you learn. It's weighty. There is a devouring energy there at home with children. And this is where the communications are going to be expanding with different laws that are being passed, new laws that are coming up in the chatter. And speaking of the chatter, that is where Pisces, this Piscean energy with Mercury is, and it's cloudy. So just make sure that you sit tight. It's going to get critical, but then we just need to sit with it. Sit with it and think on it. Meditate with it. The ninth house is where there's a lot of disordered aggression with things that you are learning about philosophical truths, religion. Again, the Pope. There could be this disordered aggression with a reigniting of a flame, things that you are learning about relationships and their health that is transforming. But you've been here before. You've been here before, Pisces risers. There's a lot of things that are in the past now with groups, with conversations, with networking, video, and this wake-up call that you get from the past with groups is going to come to the forefront with this divine justice in the 10th house, this relationship in the 10th house with Juno, and your work. It could be that there are things that you need to do for work, things that you need to learn, courses you need to take, Pisces risers. And then the way that you bring in money, the way that you desire to bring in money is going to be fruitful in the future. Good luck, Pisces risers. This concludes the full moon in Libra forecast. If you would be so kind to like, share, subscribe, I would be so appreciative. And if you would also visit my stand store and check out my readings. When there comes a day that you need a good reading, you need some advice, you need some counsel, please book through my stand store. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Peace.